Excellent. Okay, welcome everyone. Those of you joining us on YouTube that's seeing the recorded of this presentation. Today we're going to be talking about vaping. So we just starting by just trying to figure out what do people know about vaping. And Dr. Kearney just mentioned to us that vaping, from my experience, from what she knows of it, is very little, but it's not. It depends on what you're taking, what you're inhaling, what is in it. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that today. So anybody else want to share their thoughts or their knowledge about vaping? Vaping, what do you think? When you hear the word vaping, what do you think? What comes to mind? Open mic, anybody? And if nothing comes to mind, it's okay.
I said it reminds me of those commercials that warn against it. I don't know if you ever see those commercials that like.
Yes. There's been commercial recently on the news warning against vaping. Okay, great point. So that is working. Okay, I have two videos I'm gonna show you, and I have like a PDF document that I'll be sharing with you. So I actually did my dissertation on vaping. The title of my dissertation is Vaping in Adolescent. So one of the major things about vaping is when vaping was first introduced in the country, it was basically introduced as something that will help people that want to quit smoking. And it seemed like it's basic. It's water vapor, something you could just inhale. And then how bad can that be? I mean, when you have cold and congestion, what do they say? They say, go to the bathroom, put some steam on, So my first thought of it, when I first heard of it years ago, was, vaping cannot be bad. It seemed like something that is innocent. But as I started to dig a little bit deeper and do some research, I started to discover that it's not really as simple as that. There are ingredients in it that shouldn't be inhaled by people. And because of the mechanism of the device itself, it has like heating chamber that warms up the fluid, that's also very dangerous to the lungs. And also when because they want to appeal to the younger population, they want to make it something that is cool, something that is in vogue. So they put all kind of flavors in it. And the flavor may sound and look like it's innocent. That flavor itself actually makes it even more detrimental. And we know that because a lot of it is not really controlled, people are putting all kinds of things in it. They put in marijuana in vaping, they put in liquids, all kind of things is going into it. So you don't really know what you're getting. When a kid goes down to a store and get a vaping product, they don't really know what they're getting. So I'm gonna, if anybody doesn't have any more comments regarding vaping, I'm going to start the first video. And the video will explain in details what vaping is to show our kids, young adults that have been exposed or that were smoking, that were vaping for a long time, consistently, and the kind of negative health effects it has on them. And the video will also show us, what kind of accident that can happen with the vaping device itself, the battery, how it's actually dangerous itself, apart from the inhalation part of it. So let's take a look in a minute. Let me see which one. Give me a minute as I pull up the video that I will be showing. So the video is titled When Vaping Goes Wrong. And I'm like, I don't even think there's no time that it doesn't go wrong. I was at a conference at a residency while I was doing my PhD a couple of years ago. And one of the topics that we discussed was actually vaping. And it was really interesting, the different perspective that was in the audience. Because we had like professional public health specialists, medical doctor coming to get their PhD, all kind of professions in the room. And some were of the opinion that, based on the article we're reviewing actually supports the fact that vaping can help you quit smoking. And one of the questions that I was asking the the person that was facilitating the program was, okay, now, number one, how many people were in this study? Number two, who sponsored the study? You know, because sometimes tobacco industry and vaping industry, they will like sponsor a particular research because they want to throw their own voices out there. So that way the research can be, can suggest that, oh, it's not that bad. It can help you quit smoking because you're not really inhaling the tobacco, the nicotine, whereas a lot of these devices have high level of nicotine, even more than what is found in cigarette, and is very, very addictive, you know, especially to the developing brain of a young adult. Okay, so I'm going to show this video and I'll talk a little bit more about it at the end of the video. Take a listen.
Further down our list, doctors determined that vaping had been the root cause of her illness, as it had been the case for several hundred people since the break, which we'll explore in depth. Further down our list, doctors determined that vaping had been the root cause of her illness, as it had been the case for several hundred people since the spring of 2019. Herman had been vaping regularly for 2 years and had used a variety of devices and flavors. She'd reportedly take a hit every 15 minutes and spent the money she made babysitting on vaping products. Her health gradually deteriorated and she lost over 50 pounds. She had problems with her appetite and was feeling nauseous, but it never occurred to her that vaping was responsible for her symptoms. Then in August, her health broke down completely. Her lungs failed and she was rushed to the hospital. She spent 48 hours in a medically induced coma and was put on a ventilator to aid her breathing. Fortunately, Herman awoke on August the 29th. Within seconds of coming to, and with the breathing tube still down her throat, the teenager posted a picture of her online holding up a handwritten sign. It said, "I want to start a no vaping campaign." The teenager's initiative was met with resistance by the online vape community. Some even claimed that she was a fake patient hired by Big Tobacco. Nevertheless, others, even celebrities, supported Herman's efforts of raising awareness about the dangers of vaping. Vaping refers to the act of using an electronic cigarette as a way of simulating conventional smoking. It doesn't involve burning tobacco, but still maintains some of the behavioral aspects of smoking, such as inhalation and the hand-to-mouth action. Instead of smoke, e-cigarette users inhale aerosol, which is commonly called vapor. E-cigarette designs will typically include a mouthpiece, a battery, and a liquid storage area, as well as a heating element and a microprocessor. Unlike the traditional combustion of tobacco, the battery-powered vaporizer has a heating element that atomizes the liquid solution. The mixture most often contains nicotine in liquid form, as well as glycerin, propylene glycol, flavorings, and other ingredients. Because e-cigarettes aren't regulated in many countries, the contents of the e-liquid may change often. It may include harmful substances that are unknown or undisclosed to the user. Most people who start vaping are motivated by a desire to give up smoking, believing it to be a safer alternative to cigarettes. Others do it for recreational purposes or as a way to circumvent smoke-free laws. There have been numerous studies on the dangers and benefits of vaping, but an overall conclusion hasn't been reached. Even though they're marketed and generally...
Babe!
What?
I got a letter from Jeff Bezos!
What?
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I know what it is. Okay. Ooh! It's my monthly paycheck for...
regarded as safer than traditional cigarettes, vaping devices as a whole still have dangerous aspects to them. There have been several incidents of malfunctioning and exploding e-cigarettes, as well as health complications that have been linked to vaping. Number 4. Leor Dimatov. In April 2016, Leor Dimatov suffered a cut to his cornea and severe damage to his hands in a vaping-related incident at a mall in Brooklyn, New York City. The 14-year-old was at a Kings Plaza mall when one of the workers from a vaping kiosk offered him a device to try out. According to the laws in place at the time, selling an e-cigarette to Dimatov would have been illegal since he was a minor. The vendor showed the teenager various models and then gave him a device to hold in his hands. As Dimatov was holding the vape pen, which was connected to the store's battery, it exploded. The teenager was taken to the emergency room. He suffered potentially permanent damage to his hands and was blinded in his left eye. According to the teen's doctors, it was still possible in time for him to recover his sight. Since he'd been illegally targeted by a vendor, Demetov's father expressed plans to sue. One of the staff members from Plaza Vape said they were aware of the incident, but the store's management refused to comment. The earliest e-cigarette patent can be traced to American Herbert A. Gilbert. In 1963, he designed a smokeless, non-tobacco cigarette. It didn't involve the use of nicotine and produced flavored steam. Although similar in design to today's devices, it didn't receive much attention, since smoking was still widely popular at the time. It was Chinese pharmacist and inventor Hon Lik who designed the first commercially successful e-cigarette in 2003. Since the rise in popularity of e-cigarettes in the mid-2000s, vaping across the globe has risen exponentially. There are hundreds of brands, and the global sales figure in 2014 alone was around $7 billion. Approximately 95% of all e-cigarettes are made in China. As of the making of this video, China also has the highest number of e-cigarette users. When compared to the rest of the world, vaping is more common in the US and Europe. As of 2018, more than 10 million people worldwide vape daily. Vaping among adolescents has steadily increased since e-cigarettes were first introduced. Regulating and legislating e-cigarettes around the world has been challenging, and that's mainly because they overlap with existing medical drug policies and tobacco laws. As such, some countries have no regulation whatsoever, while others have chosen to ban e-cigarettes completely. Brazil, Singapore, India, and Uruguay fall into the latter category. In Japan, these devices are illegal, so that the market uses heat not burn tobacco products as an alternative to smoking. In the EU, there's been tighter regulation in recent years which limits advertising and also reduces the amount of nicotine and flavors used in liquids. As of the making of this video, in most EU states, the purchaser of an e-cigarette needs to be 18 or older. In the US, the Food and Drug Administration federal agency has extended its power to include e-cigarettes, the liquid they use, and all other associated products. In countries where vaping is legal, it's typically prohibited on public transportation, but allowed in other public places. Number 3. Joseph Cavins. In 2016, California native Joseph Cavins was the victim of a horrifying accident that left him disfigured for life. The 63-year-old was vaping at home while working on his computer. At one point, Cavins sat the vape pen down and went to retrieve a pen from a bookshelf. That's when the device violently exploded, sending pieces of shrapnel 9 feet high into the ceiling and starting a fire. All that Cavins remembered of the incident was feeling like he'd been struck in the side of the head. Pieces of the exploding device struck him in the face, damaging his eye and facial bones. His wife extinguished the fire, then took Cavins to the hospital. His eye had been obliterated and eventually had to be taken out and replaced with a prosthetic. For the rest of his life, Cavins would have to wear an eye patch. The rest of the injuries on his face were treated and would only leave behind minor scars. One expert commented on the incident and argued that the battery was most likely to blame. The device was manufactured cheaply and in a dirty environment, so intrusive particles most likely got into the battery itself, making it more susceptible to overheating and exploding. Chargers were another cited issue, since most of them don't have safety mechanisms to prevent overheating. Today's video was requested by Emma Santana. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. There are numerous aspects to consider when it comes to the potentially harmful effects of e-cigarettes. It's already well established that tobacco smoking wreaks havoc on overall health. While there is some indication that vaping helps smokers quit, it's still not proven to be more or less effective than conventional cessation methods, such as nicotine patches. Dual use is a frequent occurrence, where people start vaping but still continue to smoke traditional cigarettes. This may enhance the negative effects from both practices. Although
Crazy military headphones are disrupting the billion-dollar earphone market. These insane bone conductors,
generally viewed as safer than smoking, the risks associated with vaping are also plentiful. One of the most striking is related to severe device malfunctions, which can cause fires or explosions. Design flaws, increased battery temperature, or unsuitable chargers can lead to explosions. Should the device be in the user's mouth at the time, the impact can be devastating and result in broken teeth, torn tissue, or even death. There's also a danger, particularly for small children, of ingesting or touching the e-liquid. It can result in nicotine poisoning, which can be fatal. Even in the absence of such incidents, secondhand inhalation may still affect the health of children. There are still many unknowns about vaping and the long-term effects it has on health. Harmful chemicals such as formaldehyde or carbonyl compounds can be inadvertently produced when the heating elements react with the liquid. Vapor in some cases has been found to contain heavy metals, toxicants, and carcinogens. The ubiquitous issue is that the full contents of e-liquid are rarely disclosed, and therefore its cytotoxic potential is unknown. Therefore, vapor can contain toxic chemicals not found in tobacco smoke. However, severe adverse events including death are reportedly low and typically less serious than with tobacco smoke. Still, some of the health issue may include headaches, blurry vision, vomiting, nausea, coughing, or abdominal pain. Severe adverse reaction may come in the form of chest pain, disorientation, seizure, or hypertension. The overall problems associated with nicotine addiction are still a significant concern. The presence of nicotine still holds gateway potential towards other drugs and, ironically, smoking tobacco as well. Number 2. William Brown. 24-year-old William Brown lost his life in January 2019 when a vaping device exploded in his face. The Texas native decided to try vaping and bought an e-cigarette from a store called Smoke and Vape D's in North Fort Worth. According to his grandmother, Brown was told that the specific vape pen would help with his asthma. After purchasing the device, he tried it out in his car. As he turned it on, the vape pen instantly overheated and exploded. Shrapnel was sent into Brown's neck and severed his left carotid artery. Brown crawled onto the sidewalk trying to get help prior to collapsing. He was taken to John Peter Smith Hospital, where he was pronounced dead 2 days later. According to the medical examiner, the cause of death had been penetrating trauma from exploding vaporizer pen. Investigators suspected that the explosion had been caused by a faulty battery. One staff member from the vape store claimed that Brown hadn't bought the device there. There's a worldwide vaping community, and the practice has the type of mass appeal that could challenge the market position of combustible tobacco. However, global regulation efforts on vaping are still ongoing. There are still certain approaches towards increasing individual safety. Higher temperatures basically allow for more chemical reactions to take place. So try using a temperature control mod. Diacetyl and acetyl propanol may provide flavor, but they're also known to damage lungs, so avoid them to minimize risks. Smoking unflavored e-liquid is actually an even better approach, since it's not yet clear which chemical compounds pose the greatest risks. Some recommend using higher nicotine doses and vaping less, as well as limiting the amount of actual inhalation. Blowing large clouds of vapor is known in the community as cloud chasing. The negative health implications of e-cigarettes are still being studied, so it's best to inhale less until more is known. Don't dry burn coils, meaning don't activate them without the presence of e-liquid. When doing this, temperatures can rise to nearly 1300 degrees Fahrenheit. This can affect the structural integrity of the metal and release more of it into the vapor. Study a device properly prior to purchasing it, and make sure you buy from a trusted manufacturer that's already well established in the market. Even if it may end up costing more, it's a device that you'll likely use daily and one that impacts health, so it's arguably worth it. The same precaution should be taken when buying e-liquid. Making your own e-cigarettes or liquid should be done after extensive research to limit potential toxicity or device malfunction. Before we move on, official They Will Kill You merchandise is now available at theywillkillyou.com. It's out of
Okay. Yes, that was a lot of information regarding vaping. So I want to get feedback from you guys before I share my thoughts. You guys can unmute yourself.
Good night, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, seem as if the risk outweighs the benefit. So this is not something that people should be taking, should be taken on. It's no substitute for cigarette, really. It's unhealthy. All right. In other words, it's unhealthy. And if something is going to damage your lungs, you want to keep away from that.
Absolutely.
Yes. But it's so sad that the government is, they're endorsing all these things. That's just not helping society.
The government is not endorsing it.
When I say endorse it, I mean, they're not doing really anything about it. Because yes, there's one on Merrick right now. I just saw a lot of shops been popping up all over the place.
Some of these locations are illegal. And if you notice,
they are?
Yeah, some of them are illegal. And if you notice the places they're located in the community, Black and brown community mainly.
That's what I'm saying.
It's like the area where you see them, but because they know that when we have a tendency not to report, not to complain, there have been cases where, they're not supposed to sell to minors. As you said, as you heard in that presentation in Brooklyn, mall, they tried to convince a 14-year-old to try vaping, and then it resulted into that accident that happened with that child. So people are out there not doing the right thing, but it's important for us to know, all right, if you see a vaping store and you're not sure, they're supposed to be registered with the state. They have to be registered before they can operate it. And then they have certain restriction that they have to follow. But I know that a lot of them are not following it because I do see high school students, and I'm sure most of them are not 18. If they're in high school, they're probably not 18, going into those stores and coming out with those things. And then even also, some of them have been instructed not to put flavor in the devices, but you still find some out there that has a flavor, because the intention of the flavor is to lure the young adults, to lure the kids that want to feel the flavor. By the end of the day, the damage is being done, and it has addictive property. Any other comments? Thank you for that feedback, Sister Davis. Any comments? Okay, so one of the things that I did when I did my research, I tried to find out what is a relation between the early use of e-cigarette in children as young as in middle school up to high school. Is there a correlation between that early usage and future use of cigarette? And yes, it is. There is a relationship. Kids that start to use e-cigarette early, some as early as 12 years old, they have a higher tendency to use tobacco products, even as that presentation showed us. So that is also proven from my research. We noticed that ad exposure advertisement, whether the kids see the ad of e-cigarette in a magazine, whether they see it in a vaping store, whether they see it anywhere, that exposure actually affects whether they use it and how often they use it, because the exposure to the advert affects them. So those are the areas where the government are trying to control, to put a restriction, to the exposure of this product. That's why it's very rare that you will be on an internet. I'm gonna ask, maybe is there any young people online? It's very rare that you will be on social media regular social media, you're on TV, and you see a e-cigarette ad. Very, very rarely you will see that. You can see it in some magazine, but there's like restriction for where they can show it. But they still find very subtle way to have it in where the kids will be, that they travel with their mom, like in the mall. It's an open place. Adults are in the mall, children are in the mall. I really believe vaping shouldn't be, stores shouldn't be a place in the mall, but they're there. So, but these people are very powerful. When I say these people, I mean the tobacco industry and the vaping industry. They, like you say, it's a $7 billion industry. So they have money to do lobbying. So because they have a lot of resources, they try to lobby and influence legislation and rules and laws that are put in place. Something similar to the gun industry. We complain about this, what is happening with this gun violence. People are constantly being killed. It's a no-brainer. Put a restriction. But they will not, because of the money and the powers that be, the amount of money that people make from it, and the influence and the lobbying that go into making sure that their interest is being supported by all the kind of legislation and the laws that are brought out there. And also the other thing that my research also brought is access. What influence does access to this product? As in, if you know somebody that smoke, if you can easily get it at the bodega store, if there are 3 or 4 vaping products in your neighborhood, how does that affect whether you start vaping in the first place or not? So we notice that areas that have a lot of vaping product and store, the kids have accessibility. So it's easier for them to go in. Maybe they want to buy candy and it's right there. It's almost like the cannabis in our community right now, because it's sort of legal, it's everywhere, even though they shouldn't be selling to kids that are less than 18 years old, but we know what happens sometimes. So I think it's really important for us to be mindful of that. So the next video I'm going to show is just a short video that's going to give us an overview of the connection between vaping and even smoking cigarette generally and COVID-19 and how it affects your body. So let's just look at this. Hold on 1 second. Then after this, I'm gonna give you a short overview on how you can have conversation with children at different ages and young adults regarding vaping and how to start a conversation.
In these uncertain times, it may be tempting and comforting to reach for. And yet there's never been a more important or better time for you to quit smoking. In these uncertain times, it may be tempting and comforting to reach for a cigarette or vaping device, or other tobacco product or marijuana product. And yet there's never been a more important or better time for you to quit smoking or vaping, not only to improve your overall health, but to protect yourself from the most dangerous symptoms of COVID-19. According to the CDC, smokers and vapors are among the groups at highest risk for severe illness and complications related to COVID-19. A study from the University of California, San Francisco found that smoking nearly doubles the rate of COVID-19 progression. Smoking damages the lungs where COVID-19 attacks and settles. It also weakens the immune system and causes inflammation, diminishing the ability for lungs to clear away infection and mucus. The good news is that this pandemic may be the perfect time to finally quit smoking and vaping. First, the American Lung Association suggests identifying your smoking triggers. You may be more likely to light up or reach for a vaping device when you're out with friends or on a long commute to or from the office. Social distancing and working from home may provide the perfect opportunity to focus on quitting. Refocus your energies on exercise and other outdoor pursuits. According to smokefree.gov, exercise can help you get past cravings and common symptoms of nicotine withdrawal. Seek help if necessary. The American Lung Association offers an online support community called Quarantine Quitters, specifically geared toward the realities of trying to quit while working and staying at home during the pandemic. They also offer a step-by-step process for smoking cessation, as well as one-on-one counseling through their Freedom from Smoking program. To learn more about smoking cessation treatment at Loyola Medicine, or to schedule a telemedicine or in-person appointment, please call 888-584-7888 or visit loyolamedicine.org.
Loyola Medicine is taking every precaution to keep you safe from COVID.
Okay. Okay, I just want you guys to see that, to see how smoking and vaping can actually affect the lungs. So now, we know this thing is real, is in our community. Hold on, let me find that video. No, it's another video. Okay, here you go. Any comments, feedback? Okay, so let's keep it moving. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
I believe too that because this is so prevalent in the areas that the government, I don't know, I'm not sure, but I think they get taxes from these people, do they?
Most likely they get taxes. I think they do.
Yeah. So I believe this is one of the reasons why they bypass it because of what they get. I don't know.
I see your point, but I don't think that's the reason. But like I said, a lot of lobbying that goes on, and when you create law and you create a legislation, there's so many things that goes into it. It doesn't just happen overnight. You know, there's people that have to vote, people that have to like sponsor a bill. So when these lobbyists, people whose job are like lobbyists, they lobby for the vaping industry and the tobacco industry to make sure certain laws and legislation are not passed, and they support other ones to prove. They even sponsor research that will with the aim of coming to a particular conclusion. You know, that vaping is good for your health. Vaping will help you quit smoking. Vaping is just water flavor. It's for recreational purposes, you know. So, yes. So these are some of the things that are going on that we need to be mindful of. So if you have a young person, or even as an adult, I see adults, sometimes they're like gathering in small gatherings and they're like vaping, and they're different kind of vaping. You know, they also, I can't remember the name of the one that like in a cylinder that they use sometimes, you know, with the long tubes. So it's still like the same dynamic of inhaling substance into your lungs that could affect your lungs and create a long-term effect.
And then the other thing is that they are confusing decisions. One time yes, one time no. So, you know, all this is part of the whole mess. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so now let's look at ways our parents and guardians can educate themselves and also share information with their family, with their students. This is actually information that's shared with pediatricians across the state of New York and city of New York that is supposed to share with their families, the clients, and the patient when they come into their clinics or to come into the hospital. So let's look at the first one. Who are we talking about? For example, if you're talking to elementary and middle school students, you know, you want to talk to them about the short-term or immediate health effects, including potential for addiction. You want to give them example. You can have conversation like nicotine can change the chemistry of your brain. It can make it harder for you to pay attention and remember things in class. That's one. Smoking or using e-cigarette can make it harder to keep up with your sport or your activity. It can reduce your stamina, your ability to stay focused on a task. Trying vaping a few times could get your body hooked and make it harder to stop. So those are languages and way you can communicate with the kids based on their age level. And also you can personalize it. If the student you're talking to or your child have issue of asthma, you want to be able to say something about smoking can make you have asthma attack more often, you know, because you know the vapor goes into the lungs, you know. And you don't want to wait until the young person in your life or in your sphere of influence are vaping before you talk to them. You want to give them this resources before they get to a place where they have to make a decision. You want to harm them with, you want to like give them the information they need and the resources, so that by the time they get to a point where they're faced with that decision, they can say, you know what, I'm not interested. I don't want to do that to my lungs. No, I know what happened. That's why the advertisement that was on TV against vaping, they're very, very important, and they're very, very on point. So it's important. It's something you can share with your young person. You know, look for them when you go on YouTube. You can find those ads, and then, you know what, I'd like to share this with you. What do you think? And you'll be surprised. They're most likely exposed already, in the sense of maybe there's somebody in their school that is vaping, or they've seen somebody vaping before. So it's important. And for high school students, you can share with them how nicotine changes the chemistry of the brain. You can be more detailed, talk about the product in it and the oil as explained in the video that could be carcinogenic, you know, and you don't know what you're actually getting. You don't know. And people have been poisoned.
Right? Or, you know, what
Can you meet me? Dr. Tony, can you help me mute people that are not speak what I'm speaking? Thank you. Okay, so where was I? Yeah, so the language changes based on the age of the child or whatever health challenges the child is going through. And also you can talk about marketing manipulation, because that's also one of the things they do. Companies want to sell more vape products, so they make them look a lot fruitful flavor to make vaping seem safe and cool. So even the packaging, I'm going to see if I can find some picture. The packaging are so cool. Some of them actually just look like USB drive. Some of them have like colorful pictures on them to make it attractive to the young people. Like it's cool, it's just fruit, and you're just in flavor form, but it's more than that, as we have seen from that presentation. Okay, a little bit about the financial cost and the industry manipulation. Companies use different fruit and dessert flavor to make e-cigarettes seem harmless, but they are not. They want you to keep using their product because it means more money for them. Remember, it's a $7 billion industry. So they don't mind spending millions of dollars on advertisement because it's going to bring more money into their pocket. So the potential long-term health effect, vaping aerosol has lots of chemical in it, including some that can cause cancer. Each flavor and liquid can have different chemicals in it with different risks. It looks to us like almost like a decade realized that smoking causes cancer. It took a while before it was discovered that smoking can actually cause cancer. So even though we don't know in details the severity of what this vaping could cause, but if we draw from the experience of what smoking has caused or can cause, we know that there's a potential that this can cause a negative health effect. And we're already seeing like a different kind of manifestation, especially in young adults and adolescents that have been exposed, that have been vaping regularly, how it affects their lungs. So that's really important. Okay, so we want to be mindful of these situations. Okay, I think that's all I want to share with that one. And I'm going to open the floor for questions, comments. You can unmute yourself and share your thoughts, reactions, comments.
Yeah, thank you so much for presenting this. You know, one of the things that you said that is so important is that the marketing aspect of it, to make it into flavors, to make it seem innocent, to make it, you know, appear as not harmful. But these companies spend a lot of money on research and marketing and know exactly what will attract a young person towards this. And they also spend money on things like scholarships, sponsoring concerts. You know, all of these are subtle marketing tools that get into your head. Oh, this company sponsored this concert, so they must be good. They must be okay. So this is the battle that we're fighting. It was the same thing with the tobacco companies back in the day, like looking at, if you watch any of those old movies, and you'll see how, glorified they made it to be smoking, how cool it was, and things like that. And this is what we're dealing with now with the vaping. And so we have to sort of also teach our young people to be on the alert for these marketing techniques that's being subtly used, so that they can be wise in making their decisions. But we have to give them the tools. So, this is really important in a lot of different aspects, but certainly in this topic of vaping.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that feedback. Thank you. Anybody else? Any question, comments? Are you guys shocked? Have you heard some of this information before? Or it's like, wow, then it was that deep with vaping.
I thought it was interesting in the first case, on that first video when they were describing her symptoms. They were saying that she was having trouble breathing, I think they said, and she was also getting fatigue. A lot of the symptoms that they were mentioning, it reminded me of COVID, and I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that. Actually, when COVID started and they started showing one of the first images of the X-rays of the lungs of the people that had COVID, when I first saw it, I was like, these images are so familiar. So I went back to my research and some of the articles that I was reading, and I saw like the clinical evaluation and clinical research that they did on people that were vaping for a prolonged period of time. The images were very similar. The white glassy patches are like in the lungs. It was in the same. So you're right. Some of the symptoms of people that are having electronically induced lung injury is very vaping induced lung injury is very similar to that. Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that. I completely forgot about that. When I saw it, this looks so familiar. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Thank you, Jetia and Dr. Coyne. Anyone? Okay. No comments, no feedback? You're gonna digest it? Okay. No problem. Okay. Oh, go ahead, Sister Rosie.
No, I'm sorry. I heard everything, and what I wanted to know is, this is on a different subject. This has to do with COVID. Can I address it?
Yeah, go ahead. Absolutely.
Yeah,
go
okay.
ahead.
And what I did is I actually wrote, it's a short article. I put it on the chat and I didn't send it because I didn't want to interrupt what you were doing. But let me see. Maybe I could just send it. Let me see. Anyhow, let me see if I could just send it here. Yeah. Okay. It's kind of long. Let me just tell you what. The mayor, for some reason, is playing down the COVID. It's what I hear from you, and then what I hear from him. I think basically he's a marvelous mayor. He's gonna probably be one of the best. But when it comes to the issue of COVID, I keep feeling that he plays it down. Now, do you think that's correct? What I'm saying? You see how he put it there in the article? This is in the Courier.
This is what he said. The mayor of the virus is not overwhelming. Article, the city corona alert level has been raised to high due to spike in cases. Mayor Adams said Monday, answering question. Okay.
The situation is not overwhelming, he says. So what is your thought on that?
I still think that we need to be careful, because if the numbers are going up and we're on high alert, we're on high alert. There's no other way to put it. The system might be more equipped to deal with it, right? The system might be more equipped to deal with it, maybe because we know what we're dealing with now. The hospital is more equipped, and then we have resources. there's enough, they're putting out a lot of masks, a lot of testing kits, that we have in the community now, preparing for the summer surge that we're anticipating will happen. So even though he's saying it's not overwhelming, I can't defend what he's saying, why he's saying it, but I do know that if we're on high alert, that means the spread in the community is high, and we need to be very careful even as we interact and gather safely. So, and especially when you go to areas, go to places that you don't go normally, or you're like when I went to my daughter's graduation, it was we're all outside, but it was a lot of people. So I had my mask on most of the time, but I've not been around these people. I don't know where they've been, what they do, whatever. So yeah. Dr. Courtney, you want to say something about, I know you have one more thing to say about the mayor.
No, I'm not going to say
anything. He's my boss. I'm on recording.
I know. I'm not going to say anything about the mayor. I'm just going to ask everyone here to do as we've been saying for almost a year now, is follow the data, follow the facts, okay, and govern yourself accordingly. So the facts are that this virus keeps mutating, and it's mutating rapidly, and it's rising. Yes, we have more tools now. We have monoclonal antibodies. We have medication, Paxlovid pills to help with infected individuals. We also have the vaccines. Okay, so I would follow the data. I think we need to we've learned on this platform that look at the facts. The politicians have whatever agendas they may have. We're not into that. What we tell you to do is follow the facts. The numbers are rising, the alert level is high. That means that COVID is very active in the city. So do the appropriate work, wear your mask, wash your hands, get tested frequently. We have the at-home test kits. So once you've been around a lot of people or in situation, test yourself just to make sure. We have plenty of test kits available. So follow the data. We 2 years ago, we had politicians telling us that there was little to no COVID, okay? And here we are 2 years later with 1 million people who passed away from COVID, all right? I don't know how many more people have been infected. There's people suffering with long COVID, so they continue to have symptoms of COVID long after they've contracted it. So we know we have to take what they're saying with a grain of salt and follow the facts. We know where to find the facts. We go to the CDC website. We go to the New York City Department of Health website, because that's an area that they cannot alter. All right. So they can't alter, they can't change the facts. They can't change the data. And that's what we're going to follow. I gave up a while ago following these politicians because, they have their own agendas, but we have to protect our health, okay, as a community, as people, and that's what we're going to do. We know how to do it, okay, and that's what we're going to do.
Absolutely.
And Dr. Cronin, thank you for saying that. And the funniest thing is that the politicians and sometimes the government, they have a way of saying things. They say it in a kind of way that you can't even pin it down on them. Because number one, they said that we're going high. It's high a lot right now. But at the same time, they don't want you to be afraid. It's good. We don't want to spread fear. But at the same time, this thing, you don't want it to touch your body, because we don't know the effects of it in the long run. So either way, you have to protect yourself. So, but if you look, the government, the politicians, they see some other aspect. They know about the financial aspect of the city. They put a lot of things into consideration before they open their mouth to say stuff. But you don't have any other thing to look other than yourself and your family. So, and what do? You protect them. Like Sherry said, when we went, we were all outside. I put on my mask because I don't know those people out there. And immediately I got back home. Anytime I feel funny, I just go and do my own test first because I want to make sure that my family is protected. So I don't need them to tell me that, oh, I mean, I understand if the governor wants everybody not to be fearful. The mayor don't want nobody to be fearful. Right now, we have a lot of resources to treat this virus if it comes. We have a lot of resources available to use as opposed when it first happened. So we'll do our best to protect whoever has it, but it's best for you not to get it. So that's just what I'm gonna say.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sunday and Dr. Crony. Thank you for that. Okay, so if we don't have any other comments, it's 7 minutes to. We just have 2 announcements to share with you guys. Next week, Monday, is going to be Memorial Day. We're gonna be off. We want you guys to enjoy your day off. You know, we'll send notification to remind you so you won't try to join the platform. And also tomorrow we have Nia Bule. Beatrice, are you in a place to announce? I know the flyer I'm showing is a flyer for the May 7th event, but we have the event is gonna be on virtual. And I'm going to share actually, let me share the link with you for that event. Beatrice, do you have it, Andy?
She's not in a place where she could talk now.
Oh, she just responded. Okay, no problem. So let me find it in 1 minute and I'll share with everyone. I'll put it on the chat. Okay, so you guys can write it down. I said read it up. So it's gonna be on the Zoom platform, and the Zoom link is the Zoom ID is 822-36541-522. So I'm gonna put it in the chat. So that is Zoom invite 822-365-41522. And I'll share with everyone that is on this platform. So let me put it on the chat.
And Sherry, that can be used each week?
Say that again? Oh, the one I'm sharing now is for the Nia Bule. The Nia Bule is the initiative we have supporting the mothers of children 0 to 7, where we have dialogue. Really, we have wonderful conversation with seasoned parents, connecting them with younger parents. And then we talk about different ways to like distress and strengthen yourself and learn from maybe some of the not so great decisions the other parents have made, and they don't have to make the same mistake. So it's really a wonderful platform. So that is every 2 weeks, every 2nd and 4th Tuesday, we have that. And the one for this is every Monday, but we are not having this platform on Monday next week because it's Memorial Day.
Got it.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry you just came in, but this is recorded. I will send you the Zoom link after the meeting. Okay, 822-365-41522. Okay, it's in the chat. Okay. Oh, she's asking this stuff. Okay, thank you, everyone. If there's no other question or comments, I want to say good night to everyone. Thank you for joining us. I hope you learned 1 or 2 things today, and have a good one. And see you tomorrow.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Be blessed, everybody. Good night. Bye.
Night.